Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. So if you follow along with our channel very much, then you'll know that a couple of months ago, our family got together in the kitchen and made a lot of freezer meals. So I thought that it would be a good idea to show you all what those freezer meals kind of look like as we make them, how we actually cook them, because the directions are different for every one of them. A couple of them you could just stick in the oven, but some of them do require a little bit more. None of them are like a lot of work when it comes to it on the day that we're actually going to eat them, but I did want to show you guys kind of how we reheat the things or how we cook the things, just so that if you have seen those videos, then you will know what that actually looks like once those meals are cooked. If you have not seen those videos and you're interested in seeing how we got to the point that we're at today, we'll link those videos down below for you guys so that you can check them out. And we will also have recipes up on our blog soon for all of these freezer meals if you're interested in that. So I will show you guys over the next few days kind of some other things that we have pulled out of our freezer and made for dinners for our family. The first thing that we're going to get started on making this week is gyros. So you can definitely just purchase tzatziki. You can definitely purchase flatbread. I went ahead and made them because I feel up to it today. But if you are doing this as a just straight up freezer meal, then I really wouldn't suggest that, just because it is going to be a little bit more work. But just in the interest of trying to save a little bit of money, we are going to do it from scratch. So the gyro meat is chicken it's just chicken breast that we cubed up and put in with some olive oil and some spices, and then we vacuum sealed this and put it in the freezer. Before I make it, I always take it out of the freezer like the night before and defrost it in the refrigerator, because whenever I'm cooking it, I do want to just defrost it before I cook it. It just is going to make the process a lot quicker. So just that step is going to make a big difference here. So all I am going to do is I'm going to get some olive oil in my skillet, get it really hot, and then I'm going to pour this meat right in, cover it up, and I'm going to let it cook. So we have our lasagna with our homemade pasta sauce and our homemade lasagna noodles in here, and we just cooked it for about an hour and a half to 2 hours at 350 covered with the foil, and it is nice and bubbly. So we are going to dig in for this for dinner tonight. So the next thing that we had was our smoked chicken and some mashed potatoes, but to go along with that, we wanted to have some baguettes. So this is, I like to call this our hybrid, because it's a hybrid between sourdough and a yeast spread, and I just really like puns, so we're gonna go with that. But I basically just made the dough. I'm gonna split this up into 3 sections and roll it up. This is not like a loaf of bread, so it's going to be a little bit thinner than like a loaf of bread, but it's perfect to just tear off and enjoy with a meal. So that's what we like to do. You'll notice that I have like a special pan here. That's a baguette pan. It's definitely not necessary to have that. You can cook these on a cookie sheet. It just makes that rounded bottom, and there's holes all in it, which it's going to cook a little bit better, a little bit crunchier on the outside, which is what you want a baguette to be. So we really like using these pans. We have a couple of them. We grabbed them on Amazon. If you guys are interested, I can send a link. I can post a link to that. But yeah, these are definitely not necessary, but I really enjoy having them for the baguettes that we make. So I'm just going to roll them out into like a kind of a thick snake, I guess, and stick them on the pan. And these are going to rise again while we're cooking everything else. And they're going to puff up and be nice and fluffy on the inside, crunchy on the outside, and just a perfect accompaniment to any meal. We are using these disposable metal pans a lot right now. It's probably not something that we will continue to use a lot after this like season, I guess, in our lives, but to just be able to dispose of them at the end of the day is just so lovely. So for right now, it's a really good investment. So I am putting our smoked chicken, which ended up having to be double bagged because the first bag was too small for us to be able to seal it in our vacuum sealer. That was the only reason. You don't actually have to double bag that. We did let this thaw for the day in the refrigerator just so that we could very easily break them apart. But this chicken is completely cooked through. So basically we are just rewarming it. And in order to do that, I'm just sticking it in a pan, and I'm going to cover that with foil and put that in a 350-degree oven for about half an hour. And that is going to keep that moisture inside of that pan and make sure that it stays nice and juicy. For the mashed potatoes, you have a couple of options. So again, we let these thaw out completely in the refrigerator during the day so that they were good to go at night. You can see that they seem pretty liquid, but as they heat up, that potato is going to reabsorb all of that liquid. So you can put them in a pan like this. I really like doing this. It makes it much simpler. If I'm doing this, I like to put some butter on the top. You can see it's still kind of frozen a little bit. Obviously, the more thawed out it is, the less time it's going to take to reheat it. So once I get that kind of broken up, I'm just going to smooth the top over. And then I'm going to add some butter to this. You could also add some milk, a little bit of milk or cream, half and half. I like the butter. I like it, the flavor that it adds to it. So I'm going to cut some butter up and I'm going to add pats of butter all over the top. Now, if you did not want to reheat this in the oven, that's totally fine too. You can stick it in a pan and just over low heat, you would just reheat it. When I do that, I always add a little butter and cream to it just to, you know, make it more delicious, I guess. But this is a really easy option if you don't want to keep stirring it. If you're cooking it, if you're reheating it over the on the stove in a skillet or in a pan, you have to kind of make sure that you're stirring it because it will burn on the bottom before it heats all the way through. So for now, just for ease, I just definitely prefer doing it in the oven like this. It just kind of makes my life easier. And then I'm going to cover it with foil, and I'm going to stick both the potatoes and the chicken in the oven at 350 for about half an hour. Some other options that are really good that we like are to add some cheese on top. You can add some bacon on top of this. You can have like a loaded baked potato, mashed potato situation. That's really, really good too. I really like just having basic mashed potatoes in our freezer because there are so many options of things that you can do with them, just to kind of make, you know, some different sides, which is great. Sometimes I like to go in and give those potatoes a stir. One thing I really like about doing like the chicken, or we do burgers like this, we do smoked roast like this, is I can do one smoking day, like a month, where I get my smoker going and I cook a bunch of stuff all at the same time, and then we can freeze it and reheat it throughout the month, and it just makes my life a lot easier to go ahead and have that stuff prepared. So even after baby, I think this will be a thing that we continue to do. I did still make bread, so I mean, I don't know that this is fully a freezer meal, but it was definitely minimal effort to have a really nice home cooked meal. It took maybe about half an hour in the oven, very, very minimal effort in actually preparing it, just the forethought to take it out of the freezer that morning or the night before and stick it in the refrigerator. But that's it. So we had our smoked chicken, which is always a huge hit with our family, our mashed potatoes, some fresh baguettes that you can see here, and we just have been eating a lot of fruit with it. So anytime I do a freezer meal like this, I tend to just pull out any fruit or vegetables that we have, and we will have that to go along with it. So nice, juicy, tender chicken, some creamy mashed potatoes, and this was minimal effort on the day that I actually cooked it. This is our chicken pesto bake. This one was very, very simple. I just took it out of the freezer and it was already covered with foil. I stuck it in the oven. I did notice this time that it was a little dry, so every other time that we've made it, I added a little bit of milk to the top of it before I actually put it in the oven, and it was super, super yummy. This one was really simple to do. I just made some frozen garlic bread that we had from Costco, and this was an easy meal. So for this meal, we had manicotti, and to go with manicotti, I made some focaccia bread. I don't think I have a video for this one yet. I'm working on the recipe, so I will have that available as soon as I figure out exactly how I want to change it up a little bit. But focaccia bread is really easy. This one's no knead, and it is really nice anytime I'm doing a freezer meal and I want to add a bread to it that is homemade but is not a ton of work on my part. I always go with focaccia. We also have fresh rosemary growing in our garden right now, so we will have focaccia way more often right now because of that. So you can see how bubbly and fluffy that dough is. Super, super yummy stuff. When I make focaccia right now, I like to do rosemary and a flaky, coarse sea salt on top, but we also do it sometimes with Parmesan on top or just the sea salt. Lots and lots of ways that you can do focaccia. Just to make my life a little bit easier, I'm pulling the rosemary off of the stem. You don't want the stem, that's really woody. You just want the leaves. And I'm just going to use some kitchen shears to kind of cut that up on top of the bread. I find this a lot easier than using a knife. So along with our focaccia, we had our manicotti. So I do not defrost this at all. I keep the manicotti in the freezer, and you're going to see why here in just a second. So we do have some shredded mozzarella cheese, and then we also have some pasta sauce to go along with this. You can see that is still nice and sealed up in there, which is perfect. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is do a layer of pasta sauce on the bottom, because that pasta is not cooked. So we need to cook that pasta in the sauce. And for this, I had to use store-bought pasta sauce. We are out of our homemade that we canned last summer. So I'm very, very happy to be getting some tomato plants with some blossoms on them right now. So I pull that out. You can see that just pops right apart because they were frozen separately on a cookie sheet before I actually sealed them up. They did not freeze together into one big clump. They're just gonna pop apart, and sometimes they break, that's fine. And then I'm just gonna do a layer. So you do not want these to touch really whenever they are in the pan, because you want them to be completely surrounded by that sauce to cook that pasta. Otherwise, the pasta can get kind of chewy, and it's certainly not the best because it doesn't cook all the way through. This does not seem like it's gonna be a lot of food, but I'm telling you what, this is going to puff up. That sauce is going to cook that pasta and it's going to puff right up. And especially when you add the cheese on top, you end up with a lot more food than you realize. This one pan easily will feed our family of 7. Obviously the baby doesn't eat it, but for right now, 6 people can easily have dinner off of this one pan. Once I have a layer on the bottom where they are not like laying on top of each other or touching, I can get sauce all around. I'm going to put a little more sauce on the top, and then I'm going to just throw the last ones on top of that sauce. You have to have that layer of sauce between, or else, again, the pasta is not going to cook all the way through and it's going to stick together and it's going to be chewy. So I'm going to finish covering that completely, and then on top I put some shredded mozzarella cheese. And then this is going to get covered with foil and put in the oven at 350 for about an hour. And there's our focaccia bread, all browned and bubbly. This stuff is super hot though, so you do have to kind of let it sit. You can still see the salt on top. That is a nice little crunchy bite. It is so good. Usually I like to try to flip this out, but this is part of the problem that I'm having with the focaccia right now. You can line your pan with parchment paper. That would probably make it a little bit easier to get it to come out, but did not work for me here. Well, I didn't use parchment paper here, but I didn't do that, and the oil did not help it to come out. So we ended up just cutting it out of the pan just like that. And it wasn't as pretty, but man, it still tasted delicious. And then here's me saying, forget it, the focaccia's staying in the pan. And our manicotti was done. Once that cheese is nice and melted on there, you can pretty much guarantee you can see some bubbling on the side too. That's how you can kind of tell that it's finished. This is another one that there's a little tiny bit of effort just putting everything in the pan whenever I am actually making it. It's not like I just throw it in the crock pot or Instant Pot and come home and dinner is completely done. It takes about maybe 2-3 minutes to actually put it together, but it is so good that it's definitely worth it. If you guys make pasta, do you count the sauce as a vegetable? Just wondering. Whenever I make the pasta sauce from scratch, from tomatoes and peppers and stuff in our garden, I always do. But if I buy a can of sauce, I don't know why. It's not the same to me. So that's it. That is a few of the freezer meals that we have been able to pull out of the freezer and have since our baby has been born. We are kind of at the tail end of all of the meals that we had stuffed in our freezer, and we have definitely found it really useful. So I hope that you guys have found this useful too. And that's it. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching.